God is a God of the suddenly. Now, don't mind me reading on my script, but I did write some points I wanted to go through today. And I wanted to talk about how God can move in an instant. God can move in a sudden. He can move in a moment. And oftentimes we are not prepared for it, nor do we expect Him to move. And we often get caught up in our situations, in our seasons, and we think that's going to be the end of it. So we become very doubtful, we become very discouraged. I can just tell you a personal story that's happened very recently, and it's kind of the reason why I'm also sitting in my room filming this video right now. But essentially what had happened was I was bouldering and I fell and I injured my foot pretty badly. It's really swollen, and thank God it is not broken, there's no fracture, but it is pretty badly sprained. Anyways, the foot is getting better. It's been a couple of days now, but my back is in immense pain and my neck is also very stiff. And so, there's a frustration to it because I just started a new activity and I made new friends, and it was a social outlet for me, but now I have to put that on hold for a little bit until I get better. And I don't know where I was really going with that story, but I do think that that's an example of how things can just change in a sudden. Obviously this story is an example of something changing for the worse. I wanted to be able to boulder still, I wanted to still be active in that community, but I can't for the time being. But anyway, the greater point here is that things can change in a sudden, and things can change for the better in a sudden. It can change in a snap of a finger, for lack of better words. Acts 16:26 reads, "Suddenly there was such a violent earthquake that the foundations of the prison were shaken. At once all the prison doors flew open and everyone's chains came loose." This is a really powerful verse because it shows us that, there's so many things to unpack here, but first of all, it shows us that this violent earthquake that came all of a sudden caused this massive domino effect. And it's crazy to me because the earthquake struck, but the floor did not the floor was intact still. The prison doors flew open and everyone's chains came loose. Now I want you to think of that verse in a symbolic context. I want you to think of it not in a literal context, but in a symbolic context right now. Think of the doors flying open. Now God is telling you that there is going to be an open door in your life, in your situation. There's something that you have been waiting, you've been holding on to for so long. You've been holding on, waiting for this promise, and it has seemed unanswered. It has seemed like it was never gonna arrive, but guess what? That is on its way to you very soon. And I don't know timelines, but we forget that God is the God of the divine. That's my first point I want to talk about. We forget God is divine. Now, God does not operate on human timelines. He's not bound by the same things that you and I are bound by. We operate by the 24-hour clock. We have really structured ways of thinking and of doing things because that's all we know. And we as humans are extraordinarily limited in our scope of standards and timelines and of even expectations. But God is different. God created the universe. He created you. He knew you even before you were born. He knew everything about you, and he still knows everything about your future. And as great as it is to think about these things, there is so much truth in it. He's not limited by the same time frames that you and I are. He can see the ends of the earth. He sees the big picture. He sees the zoomed out macroscopic view, but we see the microscopic view. So yeah, God is not limited by human timelines, and that is one thing when you are waiting for a sudden breakthrough. The first thing that you're doing wrong is you're waiting. And I think what my point is here is that it's not wrong to wait, but waiting sometimes can feel, I think oftentimes when we wait in this day and age, it often means that we're not doing much, or waiting has a stigma around it because it seems to be kind of like an in-between season, and in that in-between people feel like unproductive. They feel that they're chasing something, but actually that waiting season is kind of forever, because if you think about life, there's always going to be something that we're waiting for. We don't have everything that we need or that we want in our immediate circumstance, and when we do get that thing, there's always the next thing that we're seeking. So let's reframe that waiting into being. And I think by being, because we are human beings, right? We're not human doings, we're human beings. So by being, you can be a lot more present in your circumstances. And it's also a change of mindset. We need to restructure the way we think, and instead of what's next, it's what is here right now. So first thing, we forget God is divine, and in his divineness he can cause a 180 change that we can't even picture. We can't even like fathom it. Our human mindset is so limited. I want to read Acts 2:2. And suddenly there came from heaven a noise like a violent rushing wind, and it filled the whole house where they were sitting. It filled the whole house where they were seated. This marks the sudden arrival of the Holy Spirit at Pentecost. It's so sudden. There's so many points in the Bible, right, where God is just showing up so suddenly, and we don't appreciate it when we read the word, because we always just see, we point things out, but we don't see the suddenness that the Holy Spirit has arrived so quickly, right? And these are not things that are limited to the Bible. These are things that we are experiencing in this current day and age, in our everyday. I want you to think of a friend who's really important to you. Like, it could be your best friend, it could be someone who just is really important in your life, or it could be someone who's changed your perspective on the way you see things. I know I have a couple of those people in my life, but I also know that my best friends, like my inner circle, the way I met them, each of them, separate people, not one joined group, but the way I met them individually was by chance. Like, it was the most crazy story, but it was the most random thing as well. And if you think about like the closest friends in your life, or the people who really change your perspective on the way you see things, you think about the time, like the moment before you knew them. It could have been like the hour before you knew them, or the day before you knew them. Suddenly your life just changed when they entered your life, because suddenly they gave you this new perspective, and they gave you this new connection that you could bounce off. And that is insane to me, how you can go for an event. I'll give you a story. So one of my best friends right now, how I met her was, I went to a Bible study, and after the Bible study ended, I was going to head home, but decided to hang around a little bit, and I wasn't really talking to anyone in this like atrium of an area where everyone was gathered, and I was kind of a bit discouraged, because I'm someone who loves conversations, and if I'm not engaged in a conversation, I just feel really bored and I kind of feel unproductive and stuff. So I was gonna head home, but then all of a sudden, I don't know what had happened, but she was like in front of me in a circle, and she said something that caught my attention, and we went into a conversation, and to this day we have made so many memories in such a short span of time. But it was in a moment, the suddenness, the heat of the moment, that everything changed and everything kind of pieced together. So it was really sudden, it was really unexpected. Another one of my best friends, she's my high school best friend, has been my best friend since college, and the way we met was also very random. We were placed in the same house, so our school had a housing system where everyone had different colors and names and all that stuff, and it was also pretty sudden, because I met her. I didn't meet her at orientation, even though we went through the same orientation program, and there were so many other new people there at the time. But the day later, like the week later, our teacher organized to meet, I think it was a few of the new people, to show us like our classroom. And that's where I met her. It was also in a moment of suddenness. And to this day, we are like best friends. We're so inseparable. And I genuinely cannot imagine my life without these people, because the moments in which I met them felt so quick. They felt so almost insignificant, but the significance that has came out from those moments, it is immense. It is insane. So think of a quick moment in time, a sudden moment in time, which God has changed your life in the natural, and for some greater reason in which you did not expect. And my next question to you is, are you ready for the unexpected? Because the unexpected can happen at any time. That's the whole point of it being unexpected, right? If it was expected, then you would know exactly when that breakthrough or when the answered prayer is coming your way. It's kind of paradoxical to say the unexpected is actually kind of the expected, because if it's something you've been praying about or something you've been hoping for, you're kind of already expecting it. You're kind of already hoping for it, right? But you just don't know when it's going to come. So the unexpected is actually the expected. Jesus asked the disabled man at the pool of Bethesda, "Do you want to get well?" when Jesus asks him this question, he's not asking him, do you want to get well? But he's actually kind of answering the question because Jesus is ultimately going to heal him. But he's also asking him, do you have faith and do you have confidence that you can get well, right? He's saying to him, get up, take up your mat and walk. So he's actually putting that burden of responsibility, or he's kind of challenging that man to think for himself. Do you actually want to get well? Because I can heal you. Jesus is saying, I can heal you. But within yourself, do you expect it? Do you want to take it upon yourself to change or to step into that next thing? Are you prepared? You know, so often it's actually an us problem. God is speaking, God is moving, but we are the ones that are problematic, and we are the ones that are delaying things or refusing to listen or just not accepting it. How many times in your life have you had something where you kind of knew the answer to, like, it's pretty obvious that something was changing or an outcome was going to happen, but you just were in denial because you didn't want to accept that change? Stagnancy is comfortable, but comfort does not mean growth, and comfort doesn't mean we can receive those breakthroughs. So we need to be really aware of what we are doing as well, and the posture we're in and the expectations that we have. While we're on the topic of preparation, I'm always reminded of marathons, and they're the one thing that I want to do eventually. I want to do a half marathon at least at some point in my life, but we have not built up to that point yet. I've only done a 6K marathon, but even a 6K marathon, even a 10K marathon, which is not even a half marathon, you have to prepare for those things, because on the day of the marathon, when they say go, ready, set, go, if you're not ready, if you're not prepared, it doesn't matter how much energy you might have, you are not going to perform well. And we want to bring that same mindset, that same framework into our spiritual lives. We need to be prepared at every moment, because anything can happen. So yeah, in marathons, they require training, they require months of preparation, especially the full-fledged 42K. You need to prepare for that, because if you don't prepare, your body is not going to be able to go the distance. You might go fast, but you won't go far. Are you prepared? I was also thinking of, like, a really simple example is going out for a party or going out for a social event with your friends. Before the party, before the event, you need time to prepare, right? Especially us as girls, we need a lot of time to do our makeup, our hair. I know these are all stereotypes, but it is quite true. You need a lot of time to prepare, to get ready. And in that preparation time, you're actually mentally preparing yourself as well. You might be physically getting ready, but you're mentally preparing yourself. If you're someone like me and you have social anxiety, that preparation comes like the morning of the party. You know, you're kind of reciting in your head what you're going to do, what you're going to say, who you're going to talk to. So the preparation is so important. Actually, I think that the preparation is sometimes more important than the event itself, because the event itself is kind of a manifestation of the preparation, and how prepared you are will also determine how you show up, will determine your experience of the event. If you go to a party completely unprepared, you might not have a good time, because you might be kind of caught up thinking, I should have done this, and I should have, worn this outfit. But when you are prepared, you have more confidence, and you're able to enjoy the blessing or the party or the event more. And that's so true as well in our spiritual lives. That preparation season, that waiting season, it's not futile, it's not fruitless. It's actually the most important, because when we step into that next part of our life, that next chapter, we need to be ready. And that preparation readies us for that next thing. Faith requires action. This is my fourth point. Faith requires action. Faith is not a passive thing. So often faith can feel like a passive thing because it's very much just receiving. But when you are truly exercising your faith, and when you're truly really in tune with everything that's around you, faith has to be active. It cannot be passive. Faith is an action. It's like a muscle. The more you use it, the more it'll build up, the more it'll elevate. So faith is not a passive thing. Hebrews 11 verse 1 reads, now faith is confidence in what we hope for, an assurance about what we do not see. We can't see it. We can't see what tomorrow brings, but we know deep down, we know that God has a plan for us, and we know that He is in control. So while we are waiting, we need to have that faith. While we're in that preparation season, we need to have the faith. And the faith is so important to exercise in the small things and the big things. Yeah, it doesn't have its limitations, but it needs us. It requires our effort and our energy to be put into practice. So yes, God can move suddenly, and He will move suddenly, but are you prepared? And do you have that faith that requires active, cultivation. That's not a passive thing. We have so much doubt, we have so much fear, but we need to give that all to God, and we need to be prepared for that split-second change that can make such a big difference in our lives, and that can bring us exactly what we've been praying for. Sometimes it's not what we've been praying for, but it's better for us because it's exactly what we need. And yeah, that's pretty much it for today. I want you guys to leave comments below also on other things, but this one was really prompted. I felt very pushed to share about this, and I really feel that there's a season that you're about to step into that is gonna happen all of a sudden, and your life is about to change so incredibly, so immensely, for something that you have been praying for.